According to Ravelry, I have 1,780 something yarns in my stash and really no plan to utilize them. Not a real plan, anyways. But today I want to sit down and I want to formulate a plan that I want to follow and that I can stick with, that's realistic, that's a time focused, with intent plan to utilize not only my stash, but to work through all of my whips. And I thought I would bring you along for that process. So over the last few weeks, we've done a lot of work. We've gone through and inventoried a lot of our yarn. Some of us are still working on that, like myself. We've gone through our whips and we've kind of organized those and we've let some of them go, like I have. And some of us have found more hiding in their yarn, like myself. I found 3 this week that actually have progress on them. And that's all been great. Even kind of looking at how to pair some of those with patterns, that's been great. That's been rewarding. But I need more. I need focus and I need intent. And I need some kind of action plan to get it all done. I still feel a little lost, a little overwhelmed. And what I do when I'm overwhelmed is I just seek peace elsewhere. So I find myself doom scrolling or playing video games when I can be using that time to actually knit or crochet something. I want to stop the doom scrolling completely and I want to be focused. So instead of making a plan, which sometimes does not always work out, I want to set up a system that is tweakable when needed and that is going to work for me and not against me. Now, this system is probably not going to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. We talked about that the first of the week when I had that little video that I shared with you. But I want it to be something that I know that will give me progress and that will give me results because those are things that are measurable, they're obtainable, and they're something that I feel like it allows for creativity. So, the first step of my process that I'm setting up for myself is having everything have its own little place to live. And we kind of did this when we talked about the storage section for this series. And I talked about project bags. And so, every one of my projects are in a project bags except for the ones that I found this week because they were shoved in the yarn. And every project has a project page of the ones that I'm actually going to keep and not frog. And having those places is going to help me stay in my steps of my process. And it's going to help me stay continually crafting because it's going to lower my decision fatigue and my decision making and make it more simpler and more gratifying. So it's kind of like a little reward system that I set up for my brain to reward myself for job well done. So we are going to head over to the areas where I have these things set up, and I'm going to tell you how I'm utilizing my landing zones in case you want to implement something similar in your own crafting life. So my first step or landing zone is going to be this bag right here. This is just a big canvas bag that I got years ago from Eat Sleep Knit. As you can tell, it has had some better days, but this thing is huge and there are a little bit divider pockets on the side. And I'm going to use this as my bag to hold my project bags in. And these are going to be the ones that I'm going to keep in the house with me. Now, in here, I'm going to have only 4 projects that I'm actively working on. One of them, though, cannot fit completely, and that is the new blanket that I've cast on from Juan, the Yarn Addict, and that is the Artisanal Arches. So for Artisanal Arches blanket, I'm just going to keep it in this bag I got off Temu. I got it off a while ago. It's been a while, last year. And there are very similar bags to this that I actually have linked on a post in the post page from Amazon for about 20 bucks. But this works great for projects because it has enough room for the yarn to be held in the project itself. So I'm just going to put the yarn in here that I'm going to be using for this. But let me just say that I am completely in love with this project and the colors that I've chosen for it because it's just making me have all the springtime feels. While we're prepping this project, I do want to show you one of the actual works in progress that I found. So I got this yellow out to use, and lo and behold, attached to it was a amigurumi that I started making. This was going to be the pattern that I was trying to design for my moon that I made during 2005 or 2004. I can't remember. But I was going to write up the pattern, and so I started making it and I just abandoned it. So I'm going to take this apart and use these stitch markers, but I just want to show you this actually makes number 37 work in progress, but it's going to be frogged. So now I have everything in this bag for this blanket, all my yarn. I have all my labels in this little front pocket, my little notions pouch that has my little pair of scissors in there, a darning needle, and then I have my crochet hook. So that is good. So that's going to be one of my options for my 4 focus projects. So the other work in progress that I'm going to have in here, our focal project, is going to be my Romy Hill shawl. So I have gotten some work on it, and as you can see, I'm mid-row, as always. So I'm going to put that in its project bag, and now that is going to go in my focal bag as well. The next work in progress that I'm going to keep in my focal bag is going to be my socks that are on DPNs. These are going to be one of my options for travel knitting. And it's not going to be my only one. I want to have 2 options depending on where I'm going. These are very, very mindless, but maybe I want something that's more for a quick trip. And that is going to be my mini trees for my garland. I did start a tree and I do have a couple of little skeins of yarn in here. And I haven't really worked on it much because I have been a little overwhelmed. Well, honestly, I just want to work on that blanket. But I do want to have this in here. So now I have 4 projects to choose from in the house that is with me at all times. And I know I will want to choose and work on one of those because all 4 of those bring me joy depending on what I'm doing, and they're going to help me work through those focus projects. Now that I've talked about my first place to go to. My second place to go to is my second place zone, and that is my bag. This is where all my works in progress live. Either they're in a bag or they're in a basket right here beside the tree. And you may not have a bag tree. I get that, but you can use a basket. In the past, before I had my bag tree, I actually used a changing table. I took the mattress off of it and I just used the wood shelves to put my works in progress in. It worked great. But even like a Chester drawers or a huge basket, a laundry basket, it doesn't matter. I just think for me, it's going to be beneficial to have zones because I am a zone person. I am a check the box type person. I like that gratification of going from A to step B to C to D. And it just really works well for my mind. And if you want something similar to this, because this is great because it's vertical storage, it allows you to see all your bags. You can keep your eyes out at a yard sale or a thrift store for a coat tree. This is actually just a piece of dogwood that was struck by lightning and the branch fell off the tree. I sanded it down and I stained it and sealed it and I attached it to a base, added a bunch of hooks, and it became a bag tree. So for this to work, I realized that I have to set some kind of rules in place, more of guidelines. I want to have guidelines in place for myself because I know I need them. I know guidelines help keep me focused and they help keep me on track and they help my mind have a little bit of a reward system. And that is what I need to focus on this and work through this stuff. So the way that this is going to work from my first spot to my second landing zone is once I finish one of my 4 projects that I have in my bag, I'm going to come out here and choose one of these projects. And this may be done by just me walking up and choosing a bag, or I may use one of the games that I have that we're going to talk about in another video to randomly select a project to work on. And it could be maybe it's a project that will fit in line with a make along that's going, so I may pick one according to that. This is going to be how I go from the first place to the second place. I like to cast on things. That's why I have as many works in progress as I do. So I have to keep myself kind of focused and slow that whole casting on and starting something new down. So I am going to put in another guideline, and that is for me to bypass this tree, I've got to complete 2 projects. So I have to pull 2 from my first place, and then, if I choose to, I can start one of my third place projects or my someday projects. Let's go over there and talk about those. So, someday projects for me are the ones where I have patterns associated with yarn already in my queue, and those are going to be my someday projects. They are from this shelf down to the bottom. So, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shelves of yarn that I already have paired up with a pattern, ready to go to cast on at any time. And then my future projects are going to be everything else that's in my craft room. Those are ones that maybe I don't even have queued yet, that maybe I see down the road that I want to make, that I want to cast on that day. But before I can do that, I have other guidelines that I must follow. So once I complete 2 projects in my focal bag, then if I choose, I can come over here and cast on one of these projects. And there is a lot to choose from here. There's knitting and there's crochet. There's some that is under 150 yards and there's some that are close to, I think, 2,000 yards. So a lot of variety for me to choose from. And at any point of that, where I just really want to start something completely new, off of my whenever, then I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to hold myself and put this pressure on me that I have to complete something before I start something. Ideally, I want to, but crafting's supposed to be fun, and there's no crafting police. There's no, I am my own crafting master. I am my own yarn master. So what I say goes. And so if I want to tweak my plan at any time, then I can. And there's not going to be any guilt associated with that. It's just about creativity, and it's just to give me a outline or a guideline to work through my yarns, through my whips, and through my someday projects. My someday projects doesn't mean that I'm never going to work on them though. I just want to have guidelines so that I complete at least 2 of my whips before I cast on a someday. And I think if I give myself those guidelines, then I'm going to be more out to finish those so I can cast on something new. Because in my mind, that's going to give myself a reward. It's going to reward me for being good and doing a whip, and then hey, here's this new thing that you can play with. And I think that's why I started that artisanal Arches blanket the first of the week. I've just been focusing on whips, and I needed to reward my mind because it's been a while since I just really cast on anything new. And so that's what kind of gave me the idea to do this kind of system, because summer is approaching and we do a lot of stuff with our church during the summer. So I need projects that I can quickly cast on, that I can work on the go, and I can work on around children. And some of those type of projects are things like hats, where it's just knitting in the round. And so I don't have any hats on my hooks or needles right now. So if I get to a point where I need to start one of those, I know I have a bunch of those queued and I already have yarn paired for them. And it's going to help me with my decision fatigue. It's going to help me stay focused, and it's going to help me stay crafting with intent. And that is what I want to focus on. And then if I really just want to randomly start something that I have never even wanted to make before, I have access to come and do that through my actual regular stash that's on the walls. So as I was preparing this video and figuring out what process I wanted to do for me and my stash, it made me go back to think about SMART goals and what those are. and how I'm relating that to this process. Because when you have specific goals, you're not guessing anymore, and it does bring you peace, or it brings me peace. It brings me a sense of relaxation and a sense of joy. And those kind of feelings and make you want to come back for more. They release endorphins and they make you feel good. And our stash and this whole process should make us feel good. So I think because if I am realistic about my goals, then I'm going to be able to actually accomplish them. And I need to make them realistic in the season of life that I'm in right now, knowing with what's coming in the summer and with the renovations and stuff that we're trying to complete over at the in law's house. I know that I am not going to complete 20 projects this month. I know I'm not going to complete all 4 projects in my first bag. And I'm definitely not going to complete 4 projects in my first bag and one off the bag tree. That's just not realistic. I am not that fast of a knitter or crocheter. And that is okay. There's no shame in that. There's no shame of not completing a project every single month. It's progress that we're going for. So instead of big, overwhelming goals, I'm going to set SMART goals or small, obtainable goals that I can complete every week. And one of those goals for me is going to be to knit or crochet for about 30 minutes every single day. And I'm going to do this for 2 weeks. And then I'm going to see if I've met those goals for 2 weeks. And then I can adjust that action plan then and increase that time to maybe 35 to 40 minutes. So I'm going to track this by using the timer on my phone. I'm going to start the timer when I sit down to knit or crochet, and I'm going to work through. And if I have to pause, I'm going to stop the timer. And then when I sit down again, I'm going to start the timer back up. And I'm going to just really try to be mindful of completing and reaching that 30 minutes a day. And that may be 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, 4 minutes on a car ride. But I'm going to try to really focus my time. And I think that's going to help me be more intentional with what I do with my time. So it keeps me off the scrolling and it keeps me focused on creativity. And then once I complete that 30 minutes, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to reward my mind with a little something. Maybe I step outside, maybe I snuggle cutie pie, maybe I play a game with my husband. And then if I have time the rest of the day, I'm going to start the timer again and I'm going to see what I can add to that time. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to kind of see where I am. And it could be that I find out that I'm actually having more crafting time. So I may increase that time for the next 2 weeks and just kind of build off of that, but setting myself little goals that I can actually accomplish and reward myself with in my mind. My other goal is to try to finish one project out of the first 4 before I move on to the bag tree, and then so forth, like we talked about earlier. I'm not a project knitter or crocheter. And I'm okay with that. But I need to find ways that I can utilize how my brain thinks and the fact that I am a process crafter to actually getting stuff done and using it to work towards my goal of finishing all my whips and really stashing down my stash. I also know that I like games and I need to make this fun because if it's more like a job or a chore, I'm not going to be successful. I thought about game ideas that I can share with you. I'm going to talk about other ideas to motivate you next week, but I did want to go ahead and give you a game that you can get started on this week because I'm going to get started on this as well. And I've made us bingo cards. I love printables. So there's going to be 2 options. This is going to be the deluxe bingo card that's available for download. And I think I've tested the links, so they should work. I'm also going to include last week's link, the printable, because I know many of you had issues with that. It was really weird though, because not everyone had issues with that. So I'm hoping that it works this time. If not, just reach out to me and I will get that to you. This is nothing to stress about. I will get that to you. But this is going to be your little bingo card. This is what mine looks like. Again, I'm going to put it for you to download, but you may want to make a different bingo card. So I've got this printable here, a printable pack for you as well. And in here, there's going to be some ideas of things that you can put on your bingo card if you do want to make one for yourself. And of course, there's a free space, and you may want to put different kind of little things in your free spaces, but this is the one that I'm going to start off for the remainder of this month, and then to see if I can fill the whole bingo card up, and then I might print off another one for the next month. Now, because I am a gamer and I do love points and point systems, I also come up with a little point system to help motivate us. And I did add that information on this other printable for you, this printable packet. The way this is set up, that there is a project plan, and this is going to help you to write out your plan. I am keeping it with my plan in my little planner. So in the back of here in my yearly, I have devoted a section that's going to be for this stash down. You can see that here. And I went through each month. I'm going to go back and look and see how many projects I completed in each of these. And this is what I'm going to use to keep up with. I'm kind of setting a loose goal of at least 30 projects, like I mentioned. So that way I can track those. And I also want to keep up with my yardage. When I was really knitting and crocheting like a crazy lady, I was using up to 10,000 yards a year, and I want to get back to that. And I know I can get back to that now because my life is shifting. And right now we do have a lot of chaos, but it's going to slow down again. My boys are getting older. They don't need me as much as they did. And so I'm finding time again for crafting, and I want to utilize that. And I want to have these little goals. And then I kind of have some like ideas of things that I really want to accomplish this year right here. So I would like to make a sweater. I would like to finish a pair of socks. I would like to make several hats. And so as I make those, I'm going to tick those little boxes off so I can see that progress as the year progresses. But to get you started, I have a place where you can put your first active projects here, and you can list those out with a project name and then your goal. And then for your next steps section, I gave you space to go ahead and put 3 of them there. Go ahead and list 3 of them out that you're most excited about so you can see that process for yourself. And then I even gave you a section for your Sunday projects, and there's a total of 4 spaces there. So if you have something queued, like you have 4 that maybe you need to get done for Christmas, go ahead and be intentional and write those out and put that thought onto paper. Make yourself more accountable. On the second page, there's going to be weekly goals, monthly goals, and then this week I'm going to try this. And you can write those things out because I'm going to be using this exact same system in my notebook. And then I even set a place where you can make time. Are you going to try to do your crafting more in the morning, the evening, or the weekend? And then there's a little place for notes there because I like jotting down notes. I know it helps me. And then we go into our XP tracker. So originally when I was thinking about this and setting this up for us, I was thinking more along the line of like, if you complete a project, you get 10 points. If you just kind of work on something that day, you can award yourself 5 points. But I realized that wasn't very intentional and it was very ambiguous. And so I wanted to refine that a little bit. So I came up with more of a stash focused process to help us earn points because this is all about stashing down, right? I mean, using up our whips is just like a result of that stash down process. So then you can see at the bottom, there is this yardage XP guide. And the way this is going to work is as you work through a project, or as you work on a project, then we can reward ourselves with points that way. So if you complete a project that's 0 to 150 yards, you get 5 points. If you complete a project that's 151 to 300 yards, you get 10 points. If you complete a project that's 301 to 550 yards, you get 15 points. If you complete a project that's 451 to 600 yards, you get 20 points. And if you complete a project that's 600 yards or more, you get 25 points. So now even your smaller projects are going to really add up for you. And your big ones are really going to feel like a huge win. So you get that gratification of getting more points if you do something big. And I think that's going to make this a little bit more fun. And it's also going to challenge us because we're going to want those big wins. Or I know I am. I'm going to want those points. And it's not that we're doing this because out of guilt, but we're doing this because it's going to bring us joy. And that's what this is about. It's about joy. So use that as a guide for your projects. Now, I want to also reward you for just showing up. So I came up with some other bonus points. This did print on 2 pages, so just be aware of that. But if you complete your work session every day, again, mine's going to be 30 minutes a day, then you can reward yourself 5 points per day for that. Those will add up pretty fast. And so I want that to encourage you to sit down and actually work on your project for 30 minutes a day. And if you complete a whip that you have already going in your stash before 2 weeks, award yourself 10 bonus points. And if you are completing a project or working on something that you're currently working on for 2 weeks that is stash only, that you do not have to go out and buy yarn for the next 2 weeks, you get 5 points at the end of the 2 weeks. You know what? We'll do that 5 points per week. So if you don't have to go out and buy yarn this week, you get 5 bonus points. And if you don't have to go out and buy yarn next week, you get 5 bonus points. So there's 10 bonus points that you can earn right there. And then if you frog projects, whips, that's 10 bonus points. So I can look right here and tell you that I have 3 of the projects that I found this week that I'm going to frog. That's going to be 30 points. And just for accountability, let me show you those. So I already showed you the yellow moon that I was making. This was when I was making the bed for my Blythe dolls. And I just kind of stopped. I don't know. I'm probably just going to let this one go. But if I frog this one, that is 10 points. This one is like super, super old. Like I honestly had no idea that. I know this is actually shown as a frogged whip on my Ravelry page. I just never finished frogging it. But I was crocheting a Harry Potter hat, the sorting hat, and you can see where I started frogging it and I was just like, I'm done, and just threw it in the yarn pile. So if I finish frogging that, then that's going to be an additional 10 points for me. And because we're not doing this for guilt, I want this to be fun. So naturally, if you're going to have a challenge, there should be some type of reward associated with that. So there is this little area for rewards on this packet that I made for you. And these are pretty easy and obtainable rewards. So for 25 XP, treat yourself to a cozy coffee. This means whatever you want it to mean. If you like coffee and you want to go out and have a Starbucks, use that for reward. Use that to reward yourself. If you're like me and you really don't go out for coffee, I'm just going to use it to make myself a coffee. I'm going to leave my phone in the house and I'm just going to go sit outside on the porch and get some fresh air and enjoy my cup of coffee and not have my phone and not have someone come after me and say, Mama, Mama, Mama. For 50 points, I gave the option for a new cast on. Now, for me, I'm not going to do a new cast on because I have like a ton of whips. So at that point, for me, if I get 50 XP between now and in 2 weeks, if I want to come out here and swap out one of my main focus projects for another whip on the tree, that's when I'm going to allow myself to do that. Because I think that's going to give myself a reward and it's going to be something new to play with in my mind. And so that might help hold my attention. And then for 75 XP, I might buy myself a new pattern. So I do have items queued on my queue list, but I haven't bought all those patterns yet. To help ensure that I actually follow through, I may allow myself to buy one of those patterns that I really want to make. Or maybe it's a pattern that I see for the first time and I want to add that to my queue. I may add that to my queue and go ahead and purchase it then. But I have to reach 75 XP before that. And then if I make 100 XP between now and 2 weeks, then I'm going to allow myself to either buy a project bag or some type of knitting or crochet notion. And this doesn't have to be expensive. I'm talking like I could even buy myself charms and make myself my own stitch markers or progress keepers. But I'm going to allow myself to have that little bit of a reward to go for. And I think that's going to help like motivate me. 150 XP, a special treat. Yarn, hook, or needle. Yeah, I put that there because there is things that I need to buy that we need. I need to make some more of those scrubbies for our pots and pans using that scrubbing yarn, and I don't have any of that in stash. So if I get 150 XP, I'm going to treat myself and I'm going to go buy me one of those little $4 packs of scrubbing yarn, and I'm going to crochet me a little scrubby for our pots and pans. And I know that sounds like stupid, but like it's something that I want and that I need because I only have one and I'm tired of washing that little thing. And so it's going to be a reward for me that I don't have to continuously like wash and sanitize the one that I have. Something kind of little notion reward from my mind because 150 XP is a lot. And I feel like, it's good to do things for yourself like that sometimes. And then page 5, it just talks about the bingo card that we talked about earlier, where you can make up your own and it has the little ideas. And then the last of it is just kind of has some focus mantras, not really mantras, quotes. Progress over perfection, just show up little by little. And so those are going to be downloads for you. I think turning it into a game that we're actually going to want to play is going to help motivate us, and it's going to help us stay on track without the pressure, but giving us more of a plan that's not going to be focused on perfection, but on progress. And that's going to be key. This is not going to be about trying to finish everything in 2 weeks. This is going to be about making progress in our lives and changing and shifting our habits so that they're intentional to reaching our goals. It's not about perfection. It's not about putting limits, but just giving ourselves guidelines and a action plan that we can actually follow and that we're going to want to follow. It's about feeling that peace again of crafting and what it's supposed to do for us. It's supposed to give us peace. It's supposed to help calm us and not overwhelm us. If you want to follow along, the plan and the reward sheets are going to be down below for you. And you can, again, use it however you want to. They're just guidelines. I want you to find your own peace. And if you decide to do it, I would love to see what you're working on. So you can drop those in our Discord or you can drop those in our community tab. I would love to see your progress or what you set up for yourself or hear about the time blocks, their Promado or whatever that word is that you're setting up for yourself, and what your XP is going to be or what your reward system is going to be, because you may inspire someone else, because that's the best part, this whole community thing. And I think we have a great community and it's growing, and that makes me so happy to see it grow and to see new faces and new YouTube names and have new conversations and old conversations, because the best part is the part where we're doing it together, and there is peace in that, and there is community in that, and there is a reward in that, and I'm here for it. So next week we're going to take the plans that we're working on this week and we're going to make them a little bit more fun with games, but try it out for 7 days and see if you make progress, and then let me know, and I'll see you